really, really opened up for me the moment I chose to forgive after a really intense relational breakdown and heartbreak, like a real breaking point in my life where I guess it was like the final straw. I was like, what is life? What is going on? I thought I believed in all the right things, and yet here I am completely broken, not knowing what to believe in anymore. Sounds good.
Harsha, thank you so much for joining me. I'm very excited to hear your story. You have been on the show already with your husband. Today, I'd like to just pick your brain a little bit about what it is that you do. You've done a lot of work on yourself based on the last interview that we had. And it's clear that you've been down a path for quite a while. So, before we even get into it, what is it that you'd like the viewers to get out of this interview?
What would I like the viewers to get out of listening to me
Yeah.
is I'd say perhaps like a deeper insight as to what's calling them into tuning into this podcast in general, like whatever got them to click on this, to whether they're already following you or if it was this specific topic that brought them in, just a deeper insight as to what's within that calling that brought them into this space.
Awesome. So let's go back a little bit. So, what got you on the path?
Well, spirituality has been really a part of my life since I was born. My family, I'm from India, and my grandmother is a devotee of a spiritual leader, so to say, like a guru. And so, spirituality in essence was just like always around for me from the very get-go. Um, I'd say though, like my personal spiritual journey, because even that, although it wasn't religious, there was religion kind of in different forms also sprinkled through my life. That was still kind of like it was a structure, kind of dogmatic. It kind of created its own religious kind of like take on spirituality. So one, it's been with me my whole life, like the seeking and this awareness of there's something greater and it's not just like one and it's like everywhere and all the things. My personal spiritual journey really, really opened up for me the moment I chose to forgive after a really intense relational breakdown and heartbreak, like a real breaking point in my life where I guess it was like the final straw. I was like, what is life? What is going on? I thought I believed in all the right things, and yet here I am completely broken, not knowing what to believe in anymore. So what the heck? And amidst all of that, I chose to forgive and I chose to give love another chance. And that's when my journey just took on a whole nother level. Like it just like, yeah, to sum it up, that's it. Forgiveness and love, really, really anchoring in and having to practice that for real for the first time in my life, in a way I never thought I'd have to, is what opened me up to my spiritual journey the way it is now.
Yeah, that's amazing. I think, okay, so let's go. We'll talk about that shortly. I just want to discuss India versus the West because I know traditionally they're very spiritual people. Indian people are very spiritual, but they forget about the body. So where the West is all about consumerism and the display of wealth and all of that stuff, they forget about their spiritual side. So it's actually the merging of the two. How did you experience that living in, because you come from Canada, right?
Yeah, we moved to Canada. in my teens. I never really lived in India. We moved to Dubai when I was just 2 years old. Well, I visited every summer during the summer holidays, and I had like a connection to India and the lifestyle. So the question is kind of like, how would I compare the two, and where's the balance
Yeah,
in that, right?
yeah,
Yeah, it's so interesting because there's like when you look at a place, there's the roots, and then there's the like what's functioning on the surface, right? And so yes, the roots of India is very spiritual, and there's like an embodied aspect of that. But what's kind of on the surface right now, because some of the roots have been kind of like stuff's happened, right? That like we've been ungrounded and unrooted. On the surface, it's actually become something very different. It's like in the name of spirituality, it still exists. However, the essence of what's on top of all of it is very almost westernized in a kind of a twisted sort of a way. How I would put that is like, so for example, like my own personal background, right? There's a billion people in India. So there's like a billion different perspectives that you could receive information about that land from. So but for me, like my mother went to a convent school, so she was being taught by nuns and very like Catholic based teachings because I there's just it just created a whole different like education, get a good education, you must do this to do like almost like a westernized way, like you have to make it in the world doing all the things, and like spirituality wasn't really in the mix of that. Like I said, my grandmother had roots in her devotion to spirituality, so in my own experience of India it was very mixed in the sense of like you can tell, like you said, there's this like deep spirituality, yet there's this whole other wave of reality in which it's almost like people are trying to keep up with the Joneses and like trying to do the thing that the people in the West are doing. Like for example, right? Like in India, if you have lighter skin, you're treated with more respect or you're looked up to versus if you have darker skin color. And so even from Indian people, like it's not like we see ourselves as like one unit. It's very like there's just so much going on there. It's yeah, so it's almost like I see it as a mirror to the West in a different kind of a way. Like there isn't really that much of a difference. However, what I can say is even to a lot of the Indian people, the deeper spiritual aspects and the truths of where our our history is and what's really like where a lot of spirituality was birthed from has kind of been lost in the mix, and like where the world as a whole has kind of been swept up with just a whole nother matrix of living. Um, so how I would compare it is it's like a funhouse mirror of the West in a way. It's like you go in and it's like, whoa, what? Like it's totally different. It's very chaotic here. It's super spiritual, but like how like where's the connection? Like there's sort of a disconnect in there somewhere as well. This is just my experience. When I went back to visit India after my spiritual awakening, like from the forgiveness and love, I really got to feel into the essence of the roots beyond what was being shown on the surface level. So my whole life I've had a love-hate relationship with that country where I would go visit and I would see so much poverty and I would see so much that just didn't make sense, and like things were just so dirty and chaotic and like what, and then learning about the history of our country and what happened and all of that, there was just this like kind of this like anger and rage, and so there was always stuff coming up for me every time I went to visit there. And after my spiritual awakening, when I went to visit, I got to really, because it's whatever you go to that country with, it will bring back to you like 100,000 times. Like it'll reflect to you where you are in your life. And so because I was connected to my spirituality truly when I went back the last time, I was met by that. I got to really experience like the real juice of the spiritual nature of India, which I, for majority of my life, wasn't connecting to because I wasn't there. I wasn't in that part of my life. So, I mean, it's like a melting pot of all of existence. It's like a petri dish of like all of existence there. And I would say whatever you go to it with, that's what you will receive, including the spiritual sense of it, which in the West may not be the case. It's a lot more diluted, is like the essence of the West, whereas in India, it's like super concentrated, super, super concentrated. Like that would be the comparison that I would make in essence.
Yeah, that's
I hope that
really
makes sense.
interesting. So from what I get from that, does it feel like almost some people they've got the practice, but they've forgotten why they have the practice?
Yeah, yeah,
And I
yeah.
suppose, I mean, if the West has set the precedent for everything, people tend to say, well, this didn't work. This isn't making me happy. I want to stand out. I want to do something better with my life or more with my life. And then they lose that part. But I think it's the merging of the two. You know, it's not the one or the other. It's both. Yeah, I think you're quite fortunate to have the heritage as well as experience both of those sides of things. Yeah.
Totally, totally. It's a gift, truly, to be able to see both and like how much there's similarity and then also the distinctions that are obviously there too. Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay. So you said you're in a very unhealthy or unhappy relationship and you decided to forgive. So how does one forgive? Because it's not just a word you say.
Yeah, the how, right? Ah, it really, I, it comes down to when the ego gets fully broken open and we are able to be with our vulnerability in that space of like, I'm lost, I don't know what to do, I don't have the answers. We open up the possibility to something beyond ourselves to come into the picture. And why forgiveness is so important in this process, and I saw it firsthand, is I mean, I couldn't tell you how except that pain for me got painful enough that my ego was just like done. Like every construct of life that I had set up, and I was like, this is what's real, this is what life is, this is who I am, this is what everything is, was just like wiped out. And from there, it was like, okay, well, what is? And I just sort of threw my hands up. It's kind of like this, like letting go. And in that moment, and because I can really only share right from my personal experience, right? I can say there are certain things that are true, but they're really just what's true for me. So as I'm sharing this, it may land and it may not land. So what happens for me and why my story is unique, and perhaps it can offer some deeper insights to others who are listening in here, is it's never just one thing. It's like this never ending cycle that's happening in many different directions, the center point being the self. And for me, that self was just like all I really want and all I ever want to believe in is in the goodness of self and the world, and that like we're here for something greater. Like that's always been for me like a really deep value. I didn't always have any answers, but I always had lots of questions within me, right? Everything was like, okay, well, what? And up until the point, the ego likes to give all the answers, right? Like the ego is like, if we from our soul ask a question, the way the world's set up, the ego is like, yep, here's the answer, and we can move on, right? But what happens when the ego is no longer there? to give an answer. What's answering from that point? For me, what answered was just life experience showing me and guiding me through different things coming up in my field. So different books. I'm going to get to forgiveness in a moment here, but I just want to like frame how forgiveness even came into the picture. I ended up reading a book at that time when I was going through this called Autobiography of a Yogi by Paramahansa Yogananda. And as I was reading that book, I was like, okay, I really am mad at this whole idea of God right now. Like, I don't even want to think about it because I'm just like, all I thought I believed in my whole life was God. And yet I'm like in the shits right now. I feel like I don't want to believe in God because I'm getting the short end of the stick by doing that. Why not forget about it and just, you know, be a bad person? And because bad people seem to be having a lot more fun and seem a lot more in power in this world. So, like, is that the real answer? Have we all been lied to? Like, is being a good person actually not the right thing to be doing? These are the questions in my head. And then I'm reading this book, and it's like, he's talking about Christ consciousness and God consciousness and cosmic consciousness. And like, in my ego is wanting to be like, no, screw this, no way, like, can't be, because that's what I thought I was. But at the same time that that's happening, like somewhere like in here, I'm feeling this resonance because as I'm reading pages and then I close the book and then a day of life goes by, it's like the experience I'm having in my life is like exactly parallel to the pages I just read. And I'm getting like guided by this book in this like really weird way. So I'm like, okay, wait, hold on. So I this is actually happening. Like God is happening, but I don't want to believe in it. So what the heck? Um, and so the moment came where like, I still, my ego, even though it was shattered, still wanted to like recreate itself because the ego is very powerful and we actually can't ever really get rid of it. It just reforms and reforms in support of the soul is it just kept wanting to hammer down a different truth. And when I came face to face with the moment when forget like it was the decision or choice that had to be made, it's like my ego again just died. And what came out of me was like, no, this love deserves another chance. And everything in my mind was going, what, no way, no way, what, no, this, but the, like short circuiting. But at that point, because I had already, like, that part of me had already died a few times in those like weeks that had gone by, I was naturally not so identified with that part of me. And this part of me from within, which I had just started to build a new relationship with, was new, yet I could feel like I could land in it and I could trust it a little more. And so I just followed what went, okay, like this is worth another chance. And what's worth another chance is not in the person that's hurt me, is in me realizing that I deserve another chance to be the person who deserves a love that is unlike the love that I was living in before. Because I know that there is something more to life. I'm getting it just in these magical 2 weeks where I'm having visions and like things are showing up and it's not making sense, but it's actually helping me feel excited and at peace about life during the most darkest time of my life. I'm going to trust this. And so that began the journey of really anchoring into forgiveness. How it happened, I couldn't really tell you, but what happened is my ego was just like done and my soul was like leading me now, and it was like the soul was the guide and the ego was the follower, whereas it was the other way around for most of my life.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I haven't read the autobiography of a yogi, which I'm going to make a note to read next because I've heard so many people talk about it. But I know when you read certain books, it actually does raise your consciousness as well.
Yes.
So I think like forgiveness is not a thing you do; it's who you become, right? And
Yeah.
so how is your love? How is your self love now? And your self worth now, because it's not about the other person. It's not about who you're in a relationship with. It's who do you allow yourself to be in the relationship.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a constant work in progress, I'd say. It's the self now I've experienced is so vast and so beyond anything that we can like really fathom with the mind that it's like this constant rebirthing into this new level of self-worth and self-love where it's like, oh, like this is great. And then you hit like an upper limit and it's like, oh, wait, huh? What? I thought I was doing all great, but now there's like this another little like limit, this little edge that I'm at. What's going on here? Kind of like feels like some old stuff is coming back up, but it's not the old stuff because the way I'm relating is way more forgiving, way more compassionate. And in fact, that's what allows me then to like pop through that edge and then like move into the next realm of like, okay, I'm back at peace and back at like it's sort of like a cycle of instead of like a vicious cycle of like constant struggle, it's like a cycle of growth that starts to happen. And that's where I feel like self-worth and self-love goes hand in hand with that is because there is an anchored sense of worthiness and love whenever that like upper limit, that edge shows up, it's like, okay, this is what it is. It's an edge, it's an upper limit. It's not whatever else, like, the this and that and this and that. And it may happen for a split second because we're human and like the ego will be there. But as soon as that happens, we can catch it and go, wait, that's not me. Like that's something else. Like, okay, okay, ego, like I hear you, I see you, thank you. Thank you for trying to do what you do and protect me here. But what's beyond this? And then like we get to feel like another level of our self-love and self-worth. So where I'm at with it is just in like a constant evolution and like a constant growth and ever evolving, like sort of. And it's sort of like I like to say it's like growth doesn't just happen like this. Expansion doesn't just happen like this. It's sort of like it goes and then it sort of like goes like this a little bit. And then it goes up like that. And then a little bit like that. And then so we create the space in those edges to like create more growth.
Yeah, I like the way you put that. And people, I mean, you don't just learn something and now you've learned it and you carry on with your life. You're constantly going to be challenged.
Yeah.
You work with women as well now. What do you find their biggest challenges are?
Hmm. What's women for women?
Specifically for women, yeah.
Yeah.
Different to men.
I think it's really knowing and believing in ourselves as women. Like a majority of the framework of the world that we live in right now, like the like overarching filter on life, on reality, is more men based. Like it's created more by men who've built it on the like surface. Not to say women haven't been a part of it all, like women have done our part, but like what is showing up is more of it's more in support of like men. And so for a woman to really know what it is to be a woman, there isn't a lot of role modeling truly. Like the truth is like the most closest I've come into teaching of what it is to be like truly a woman and know myself and believe in myself as a woman has come in like I've had to go into like places where these teachings are not like they've been like buried in caves or like these books that are like off on the back of the shelf, like they're not at the very front. And it's not to say like that the things that the men have created like that they're bad, right? Like for example, Autobiography of a Yogi, Paramahansa Yogananda is a man, and yet that led me to a great spiritual awakening in my life. So it's not to disregard any of it, but that like, even be like to go beyond that into like where I am now and working with women is I've accessed information and knowing that actually isn't out being like really blasted out. Truly, it's like hidden. And because of that, I think women, unless we're willing to sit and go into like the hidden parts of ourselves, like the little secret caves in our psyche and like the back bookshelf in our, like our stack of memories, we are not knowing ourselves fully, like as an integrated being. It may be like we know it, but it's like tucked away somewhere, or it's like only for certain times that it comes out. Or for like to be a woman and like our wholeness and our fullness, I think like that's what makes it, that's the hardest thing, is to really know like whoa, like being a woman is like holy, like this is a power. Just to be born as this is already such a powerful thing. And wow, 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 without having even to do anything beyond that. So yeah, that's I think what's probably the most challenging thing for women, is like knowing ourselves as women and believing in ourselves as women and like what we're really capable of, truly.
Yeah, I agree with you. A lot of there are no real books or anything that people can study. Um, I do know the Toltec tradition, they've got uh, a good explanation of how women should be. But most
Yeah.
people wouldn't find that path. You know, it's not like really available to the people that are out there.
Yeah. Yeah.
The women that you work with specifically, are they do they come as couples? Do you do plant medicine? You do your retreats in Dubai now?
Not in Dubai. There's lots of restrictions here. So mostly in Canada.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or at least I haven't, like right now we're just working on getting our visas and like getting settled before we can explore into these like alternative spaces. So it's been in Canada. To answer your question, they haven't shown up as couples. It's so interesting. I do want to tell you, on our call last, right? I mentioned that like so far in our community, it's been like the one of the two have been showing up. And then immediately after that call, we had to cut that call because we had a community call. And what showed up is like new members, and they showed up as
Oh,
both
wow.
parties. I'm like, whoa, like that was a cool little quantum jump that just happened. And so thank you. But to come back to your question, they're in relationships, but they're not showing up, like their partners aren't in the space with them. They're just in support of them being in these spaces of healing and evolution and empowerment.
Yeah, no, I did a lifeline counseling many, many years ago. And my husband
Mhm.
at that time was very upset because I was growing and learning, but he wasn't. And he said they should do training to tell you how your spouse should cope with you being a different person.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I think unless two people are on the journey, and you might be like, one's growing and one's following, and so, there'll always be maybe an imbalance, but unless you're both growing towards a common goal, it's not going to work. What do you say to women who are struggling in a relationship, trying so hard to make it work, seeing the potential in a man?
Yeah, I always bring it home to, it's really like the relationship is really always a mirror, and that the like whatever needs to be worked on isn't even about the partner. It's like about really turning that back to self and really making it like a self journey. Like I I've seen this in my own experience, and I've seen my clients also go through this, where even if at first the partner is not open to it, it's a great test for the relationship, like where the truth of it really is. Like, is it truly love, right? Because when a woman is doing the work and is truly doing the work to open up herself to herself truly, the essence of a woman is so love. Like, it's all love. It's fierce. It's very fierce, and it's very like, it can cut through with truth, but it the truth can be so fierce and can cut through so sharply that the love must be anchored in at equal and even greater amounts to the truth, because then the truth actually breaks things apart. Like, truth has the ability to bring worlds together. But when truth is not hand in hand with real, unconditional, open, embodied love, truth will actually break things down and break things apart, and will find reasons to actually split and separate. So for me with the work with women is like first really work on like what does unconditional love look like truly for yourself, and like getting into the embodied essence of it, not even for the partner. Like it's not about the partner, it's about what is true about you, and can you be loving towards that part of you, and like really going into those darker spaces because we all have them. And if one of my clients is coming to me and saying like I'm struggling with my partner because they're doing this and this and this and like it's hard to da da da, I say okay, as you're saying this, where in your body are you feeling that right now? Like your body's speaking, where is it live? And they'll for a moment they'll sit and they'll say, okay, it's here and here. Okay, what does that feel like? Tightness, pain, discomfort. Okay, all right, well, let's work with that. Let's put your partner aside. Let's work with this pain, discomfort, and contraction that's happening here. And then we'll go into like a somatic experiencing and an expanding of that, and just in their own space, giving them the opportunity to see where whatever is misaligned is actually existing within them. And when they can do that work to realign it for themselves, then one of two things can happen. One is they develop new communication styles and skills, like a new language just comes through from the body, out from them, that can invite their partner into deeper connection with them from their evolved place, from like the new, more loving, open place, saying, hey, this is what's true about me. This is what's going on with me right now. This is what I'm seeing in our relationship right now. This is what I really want. And I understand, I'm changing, and I'm like, as a woman, I am not the same woman I was X time ago, a month ago, a year ago. It gets to the point where every cycle I'm a new woman. Like I'm not the same woman I was 1 week ago. So I'm evolving so quickly, and I'm tapping into this version of me that's just evolving at this pace. Like it's just happening so naturally. And I get that you as a man are not in that space. And so I'm not telling you need to like do what I'm doing and evolve at the same level that I am. I take that pressure off, but can you meet my needs and desires from this place that I'm at? And I'll be honest with you, like that evolution as a woman with that kind of language and that level of love will actually create quantum leaps and shifts. And like the men in their own bodies will start to go through like a recalibration that can only happen when their women are coming with that level of like frequency to wanting that change. And so that's one thing that could happen. Like the man could be like, oh wow, yeah, like I want to keep up with you and I'm going to do whatever I can to like be able to do that. I have no idea how, but I'm in. Like just give me time and patience, and I'm in. And then that's where the patience and forgiveness we get to like as women be with, because we're a little bit quicker in this evolutionary path right now. And so we get to forgive and be with and really feel into the essence of, even though they're not keeping up with us, maybe they're behind, can I really feel like they're doing their best? Can I really feel like they're trying? And that can I hold that compassion for them regardless? And we'll be able to feel because we're opening up to our own sense of self, whether that's happening or not. And then we can be with that and we can continue giving that a chance. The flip side is we can feel that, actually, no, he's not open to it. Like that shift that should naturally be happening to a loving partner, like a man who loves a woman when she comes from that level of openness and communication and evolution. If that's not happening, then the woman will say, I probably made the wrong choice here. And now the most loving decision for me and for this man is for me to decide to make a different choice and to we move in our separate directions. And again, the universe, like nothing is linear. It may even be just like a 1 week separation and then something shifts in him and he comes back, or it's done. He's out. He was part of a different version of you. He's meant for somebody else. And in the new evolved version of you as a woman, being able to let go and not be attached to that, you're opening yourself up to a partner that actually is meant to evolve with you in that way. At the end of the day, there's no loss. There's no loss. It's just all a sense of like opening and gaining, and the truth and the love have to be hand in hand. So that's what I would say to women is like really come back to yourself. Like, are you really connected to your love as much as you are to your truth? And can you find that balance within yourself and really just trust that you're supported by forces greater than yourself, that you don't have to be the one to control and do and make anything happen. If it's meant to happen, it will happen. And if it's not happening, it's not meant to happen, and you can let that go. It's sort of like what I would share with women.
Absolutely. And
Mhm.
a lot of women come from fear and they say, well, what if he meets somebody else and then he changes? And I say,
Yeah.
well, then the dynamic wasn't right with you. He'll
Yeah.
never maybe change because the dynamic with you is not right.
Right. And what if then you meet somebody else and everything changes? Like, just forget about the other party and just think about, like, if that's happening for him, that's probably going to happen for you too, right? And isn't that a great thing? Like, it's not like it's only going to happen for him and like you're going to be here. Like, if you're on a growth path, you're meant for somebody else as well. And wouldn't you rather have someone who's better fitted for you than that? You know?
Totally. And
Yeah.
I was just thinking on this on speaking about how women don't have role models. I actually went out. This was a few years ago, but I went out one night and there were some office workers having after work drinks,
Mhm.
and their manager came with, and I thought it was a man. It was actually a woman. She had pants, trousers, she had a white shirt, a tie, short hair, no makeup,
Mm.
glasses, and I thought, wow, she's trying so hard to lead the team of men by thinking she's a man. And it's
Mm.
sad. It's really sad. And she wasn't gay or anything like that. And whether she was or not is irrelevant. It's just that she was in this corporate environment where it's male dominated and they won't listen to you unless you behave in the way that men do. And I think she would have had way more respect had she been able to be herself, without a doubt.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm so curious. I have so many questions about that, like the ins and outs, like from were there other women there as well? And no, it was all men there. Yeah,
Well,
so
the where the drinks were, I mean, it was a restaurant, so yeah, there were
okay.
other people. But
Mhm.
the her team, it was a mobile phone company. All her team were men, and she was the
Oh,
only woman, and she was running that team.
mm, yeah. I mean, the way I see it is like she did it, like she's leading all these men, but like, is that really what she wants? Is the question that I would ask that. Like, is that truly what you want? Like, you're clearly powerful enough as a woman to lead men, right? Like, you've done it. Look at you, way to go. But now that you've done this, like, what's next? Like, do you want to continue this? And at the cost of what is this happening? Is what I would ask, right? Because it's the way I would look at that is like I can celebrate it, but what I can resonate with you, like the sadness in it is like there's if you can do this, there's probably so much more you can also do. And like as women, we can see that in you. And like, we would love to see you seeing that for yourself and then like evolve past this role that you're in that's keeping you in this
Yeah,
way, kind of like that's how I would look at it. Yeah.
yeah. Look, she didn't look too happy.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
I can't see her, but I mean, she might have been in that kind of industry for all these years and kind of feel trapped. And I think that's where women often do feel, is because they didn't speak their truth. They'll say they're happy about it. They'll go along with this, with the way the status quo is, and then they'll look back and say, I forgot who I am down somewhere down the line. And that is when the question comes up, well, who am I actually, or who do I choose to be? What do I want with my
Exactly.
life? Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay. So you've got your Revive community. We did discuss it, but what is your role in it? So just from your perspective, how do you see it?
Yeah. We have, so the community is like the together. We have our also like our individual. So my role in it is it's like the amplifier, the I wouldn't even say there's like one role. It's not even like a, a role. It's more like the S. I'm just me, right? Like I just bring me to the table. And what I am about is one, just helping myself and people understand like how much power there really is within when we can really tap into what's within. And I guess if I was to like layer it out, like one of the layers that I bring to the space that I find like those in the community really resonate with is I'm able to I'm able to like hold space for anything and everything. Like whatever somebody brings into the community, whatever someone brings to the table, they can feel safe to do that. Like they can feel like, it's safe to like let this out and know that it's going to be held at a frequency that like that say it's something to be celebrated, boom, we're going to celebrate it and it's going to be like majorly celebrated. If it's something that they're maybe having trouble with, it's like a struggle. All right, well, one, you're going to be feeling like it's okay to have that struggle, but then also you because of that, like there's no like there's no force in there saying that like there's anything wrong with it. There's like a natural like healing that happens where people just start to get their own sort of insights. And I had someone say this to me before I was on the call with a girlfriend of mine, and she's like, like just it's people like you, showing me, who just hold this like space type of space. Just as I'm talking, I'm hearing and catching myself talking from a part of me that's not really me. And like I can see myself shifting my language as I'm talking and it's coming out differently. Versus if I was to take this very same topic and go talk to just my I don't know, whoever, like someone who's just in their life, right? Like a friend, coworker, or family that is part of their past. It's like the space that matches that is not one of like evolution. Either it's like oh, you shouldn't do that, you shouldn't do that, you should do this, or like the victim mentality, or like just like it stays in that frequency. So one, my role is multidimensional, but I'd say what I bring to the table is like this really beautiful space holding, a welcoming, compassion, acceptance, and empowerment, really like helping people see that they really can, through their own inner landscape, create the solutions, find the solutions to their own problems, like a math problem. And problems aren't something to be ashamed of or guilty of. It's literally like a math problem. You just got to find the solution. There is a solution. You just got to figure out where the things go and how to reorder it within yourself. And then, boom, the solution comes. And the cherry on top of that is whatever your solution is your solution. Even if like 100,000 people in your life do not agree with what your solution is, if you know in your heart of hearts that is your solution, you go with that. You trust it. And in this community, if even like, you'll know that you are supported in whatever decision you're making. And then you can live life and come back to the table of like, yep, it worked. But this is the new solution. This is the new solution. Like it's just, I just see this like, have you ever seen, I don't know why this vision's coming to me, but it's like I see us and our problems and our evolution, like these math problems that these professors write up on the wall, which like to me makes no sense. It just looks like a bunch of like lines and X's and dots and things. And like, and they're like writing and writing and it just keeps going and keeps going. And it's like, what are you even writing on the wall? This doesn't make any sense. But they're like, yeah, this is the answer now. I'm like, well, to me, that makes absolutely no sense. But to you, that's like the ultimate answer to some theory of something. So you're going with it. So why not we do that with ourselves being that mat, like us being the chalkboard and us writing all over it with our own squiggly lines and stuff, saying like, this is the solution to my problem, you know? And so
I
I guess
love
that's what
that.
I do. Yeah.
I love that. It reminds me of the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, where the answer is 42.
Yeah. Yeah. I haven't seen that, but for some reason I just got what you meant when you said it. Like, yeah.
It's brilliant. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, but the thing, I mean, even with me when I'm coaching people, if
Yes.
I've discovered if you tell somebody the solution, you're actually taking it away from them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
find if people don't come up with it themselves, you take that away as an option because it
Yes.
needs to be organic.
100%. 100%.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Our role, like empowerment is just knowing which questions to ask so that they can get to their own answers from a different part of themselves that maybe they weren't
Yeah.
answering from. Yeah.
Yeah, and you're right. It's about holding the space and creating an environment where you can think out of the box and not be stuck in the same old. Especially if you're with friends who are going to keep you in that mindset because that's how they relate to you. And that's it. You're not going to get new ideas from old ideas. Can't happen.
Totally.
Okay, so what is the Revive community about? Just to recap, because they may not have seen the other episode.
Yeah, Revive Community is for those who are on this journey of awakening, of empowerment, of coming back to truth and self, and looking for a place to continue integrating that with an online community for people all over the world where we get to explore different topics and continue this journey from a place of having exploration and integration and empowerment all happening simultaneously. Breathwork is a staple of the community, and we find that that's the component that allows each member to really like go into that deeper parts of themselves. So in the community, we honor the individual's own personal journey and the magic of when an individual brings themselves to community. That's when the medicine can really show what it's really about. And so we then honor that space. So two of our calls in a month, we have weekly calls every Sunday. Two of them are community connection calls where we explore certain topics. Each month there's a new topic. Right now in December, our topic is requesting and receiving. Oh my gosh. The relationship that we have as humans to that in general, being givers, it's like already from the first call, we're exploring and finding out like, wow, there's a lot here. And then so then we use the breath work to go into like the personal energetics and clearing out and getting into like the relationship to it. And then we do another connection call, the second one, connection call, and where we go into another deeper dive of the exploration of the topic as a community where we bring it in. And then we go into another breath work. So it's two breath works and two community connections. And in that, we offer a space of community and integration and honing in. But I do want to mention kind of an offshoot of the Revive community that I would love to invite any of the women who are tuning into is I also do women's work. Is it okay with you if I share a little bit more like about that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Of course.
It's really close to my heart. It's really, uh, yeah, it's really, really close to my heart and my purpose in this lifetime. I'm running, I have a program that I run every 3 months for women. It's an online container of 6 weeks, 4 to 6 weeks. 4 sessions are live sessions, and two of them are pre-recorded. It's called Rebirth, and it's to support women in really energetically rebirthing like that what I was telling you about, like that ego reframe. It's like a really deep dive into reframing the self identity from the birth story, from the moment of your birth. We go into the energetics of that. But really what I want to invite all the women who are listening to this, if you're interested in just what I'm offering, every quarter I offer a free women's breathwork called Remember Her, spelled Remembher. So it's like everything I've been talking about on this call. It's an opportunity to drop into a space online and experience breath work with the essence of everything I've been talking about: compassion, love, truth, embodiment, like knowing yourself as a woman, believing in yourself as a woman. And it's all wrapped up into like a 2 hour completely free event. And the next one's actually December 21st. So it would be lovely if you would actually even would like to join. I'd love to have you join that. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that sounds amazing. I was thinking,
Mm.
have you heard of Dr. John DeMartini?
Yes. He
He's
was
a
recently
motivational
on.
speaker. He's written quite a
Okay.
few books as
Yes.
well. Yeah. So he
Hmm.
was actually
Yes.
saying that he had his first child and they thought it was going to be a boy. And when
Yeah.
she was born, she came out and everyone was like, "Oh, it's a girl." And within an hour, she developed a rash on her whole body. And he sat with
Mm.
her the entire night and held her and told her, "Listen, we love you. It doesn't matter that you're a girl. Everyone was just expecting a boy. We didn't know." And by the morning, the rash was gone. So,
Yes.
whether a child can understand the
Yeah.
words or know what you're saying, they get the energy of the love. So yeah, I think that's very
Yeah.
important. I think that's great work. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Rebirthing. And the beauty of what you just shared is even if that didn't happen for us,
Yeah.
because we were through, there were stories that were present around with, our parents and things, and everyone's doing the best that they could, but there was just certain stories that were present that we were birthed into that may not have been our personal story. And why I'm so passionate about rebirth is that I believe as women, our power is that because we have a womb, we can energetically rebirth ourselves. Like we can literally go back to our birth story, whether we know it or not. We can bring it in, and through our own present day womb activation, we can rebirth ourselves energetically and then rewrite the story that we would say is in alignment with who we are. And then that energy gets to be what we are imbibed in. And we get to release those other stories like little by little with each rebirth cycle that we go through. And then we come into more wholeness of who we are. So it's like, I love what you share because it's like that's the power of this. That's the power of this energetic work, and like honing in on it can make a night and day difference for like things that we're struggling with, body image or health or relationship or financial or whatever may be the challenge. When we can like work on like the deeper energetic parts of it like that, it can change it. It can change it so quickly and like with so much ease.
Yeah. And I suppose like even for Indian people, if they've got a social caste system, if you could rebirth your station, as it were, in life,
Um,
your possibilities would be endless. I mean, yeah.
totally, totally. Oof, I feel that. I really feel that.
Yeah. Okay, so where can people get hold of you?
Where can people get hold of me? Best place is on Instagram. Right now is probably where I'm most active at Harsha Sosa Empowered. Is my Instagram handle. My website is www.revive-yourlife.com, and that's where you'll get the whole like the community rebirth rebuild, which is the men's work that Erin is doing. And so that's kind of like the one-stop shop for what we're offering. But from like me and like my stuff, it's all on Instagram right now.
Yeah, I'll put all your links below. Just before we go, do you have a message for our viewers that they can keep in mind on their journey?
Thank you. Thank you for tuning in to this. If you've listened to this point and you're resonating with it, I just want to say thank you. I have so much appreciation for this. And um, I hope that the intention that was stated at the start of this call was fulfilled by this point, that the deeper insights as to whatever called them in has come through. And I'm looking forward to exploring more. And thank you. Thank you for this space so much. Thank you. You as well. I
Thanks,
actually, if
Harsha.
you don't mind, I have a quick
Yeah.
question for you. I was really curious about spiritual warrior journey. Like I know this is sort of taking it beyond, but I was really curious and would love to know a little bit more about where that came from. And yeah.
I think my kickstart to my spiritual journey was when I met my daughter's father. I knew him 3 months and I fell pregnant. It was just a rebound relationship. It wasn't serious. And now I had a choice. But while I was pregnant, I found out that he was a demonologist. And so the person that I thought I'd met became somebody else. I mean, his face would change, he would get aggro, and he was so controlling. By the time my daughter was a year and a half, I realized that I'll either be dead or I'll be a doormat for the rest of my life. So I made the choice to leave. It was extremely painful because by that time I'd lost my friends, my family, any sense of self-worth. It was bad. I mean, if I had to say he was a psychopath, he's a sociopath. Yeah, he
Mm.
was bad. Anyway, when my daughter was a year and a half, she was sleeping in my bed and she woke up in the middle of the night and she said, Mommy, Satan by the door.
Mm.
And I just sat bolt upright. It was like 1 o'clock in the morning. And she pointed at the door and she said, There's a man by the door. Anyway, from that time, I didn't sleep. So I stayed up the whole night. The next morning, I tried to phone him and he said, Oh, well, I'm a bit concerned because when I was practicing my demonology, I dedicated my firstborn to the devil.
Wow.
And so from that time, I said, well, if that's the case, then I'll dedicate my firstborn to God and let's see who wins. And I've been on this warrior journey since then. I kind of feel like, okay, bring it on. But that's not
Mm.
where it that's not where it ended. I mean, it's been a path of, you know, people. I mean, I know in India they do a lot of curses and spells on each other, and
Yeah.
it seems to be like the norm there.
Yeah. Totally. I figured that out too. Yeah, it's
You know,
crazy.
that it's quite
Yeah.
crazy. Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's quite blatant. You know, I don't like my neighbor. I'll curse my neighbor. It doesn't happen in the West so much, but people
Right.
do it. And I was stalked for 9 years after that. He didn't just let me go. It
Mm.
was hectic. I used to have threatening phone calls, threats of rape, police on my door, welfare. It just didn't stop. And from that time, it's just been on and on and on. But that's what got me started.
Wow, yes, warrior indeed. Wow, wow, amazing. Thank you for answering. How old is your daughter now?
28.
Wow, beautiful, beautiful. Thank you. Thank you for answering my question and allowing me to, yeah, satisfy my curiosity there. That's a truly a spiritual warrior journey. Mm, I honor it.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it's been
Mm.
quite a journey. But okay, and now I mean now it's evolved into way more other things. But yeah, that
Yes.
got me started. So I always say the people that are your nemesis, they're actually your greatest teachers. So I thank him for it. Not as the person he is, but as the soul that he is. Yeah.
Yes, yes. Yes, I love that. That's so true. Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
All right.
All right.
Well, thank you. You have an awesome
Mhm. You as
bye,
well.
Harsha.
Bye.
It's nice to chat.